Welcome to the Andy Staples Show. Happy Friday to those listening in podcast form. Happy Thursday, the real day that starts the weekend, to the real ones who are with us on the YouTube stream. Ari, we have a Dear Andy / Dear Ari question. I led my Dear Andy mailbag with this on The Athletic, but I feel like we need to have a more expanded discussion of it. Pete Sampson wrote a great story about this whole situation too, and we'll talk about that. But this came from Sam yesterday, and Sam's a avid reader, avid listener, and I thought it encapsulated a lot of what we talk about. It's not just a Notre Dame question, but because of everything that happened with the whole offensive coordinator search, that's where Sam kind of plants the flag. So I want you to hear Sam out, and I want to see what you think, because this is a topic that you and I have discussed quite a bit. So here we go. As a diehard Notre Dame fan who usually craps on Michigan, I completely understand now when their fans say, do we really want to win a title? Notre Dame has a big enough endowment to buy 2 NFL franchises and still be very financially stable, but won't pay a buyout for their head coach's pick for offensive coordinator. They won't get on board with NIL. The real question is, why the hell should fans care and spend money to root for schools like Michigan and Notre Dame when their schools seem not to have the same level of care? If I was an Alabama or Georgia or LSU fan, I know my school is running through brick walls for their guys. My school is over here turning itself into a stepping stone job. I realize it's rhetorical, but with the changing landscape of college football, I feel like there has to be some sort of universal change that can come about to level this out or make the schools that appear not to care to actually care. There's a lot to unpack there, but let's kind of give the background here. A week ago, Notre Dame is looking at Andy Ludwig from Utah as a potential offensive coordinator. On Friday, Andy Ludwig is flown to South Bend for a second interview. He's paraded around. He sits next to Marcus Freeman at a Notre Dame hockey game. He's photographed. He's on the Jumbotron, blah, blah, blah. So usually when that happens, it's your job. You've basically accepted. It's been offered. You've said yes. Otherwise, you don't let all that stuff happen. That's why these colleges keep all these negotiations a secret most of the time, or at least attempt to. It comes out, and our Pete Sampson, who does a great job covering Notre Dame, wrote that, Utah had a buyout inserted into the new contracts of his assistants, and to hire Andy Ludwig would cost $3 million in buyout money, and to hire their offensive line coach would have been another $1 million in buyout money. And according to Pete's reporting, the thought was that Notre Dame could negotiate that down, and when it was not possible to negotiate it down, the deal fell apart. This looked bad for Notre Dame, and that is kind of where Sam's coming from on this.
Because you are a Notre Dame fan who wants to believe that your team can compete at the highest possible level, win national championships, and beat programs that will write a blank check for anything. And sometimes, as much as we say that different levels of college football are playing different sports when we're watching it, the financial situations behind these programs are also sometimes playing different sports.
Except Notre Dame can play the same sport as Ohio State.
That's what I'm saying, but they're not doing it. They're playing a different sport.
Yeah.
That's the entire point of the question. So, it's like I kind of like to think like if Georgia needed a offensive coordinator or any assistant, and they felt like their guy was somebody who would elevate the program and put them in a position to win a national championship, there's no financial extent that they wouldn't go to in order to get that done.
Well, it's like Alabama just took Notre Dame's. That's another part of Sam's frustration is LSU just took Notre Dame's head coach a year ago. Alabama just took Notre Dame's offensive coordinator a week and a half ago. And so that's where he's saying stepping stone job. I think the distinction here between schools is, can't financially compete with those type of schools or won't.
Yeah.
We're in a won't situation here. Now, here's what I will say about this, because I don't think this is necessarily a Notre Dame is acting like a poverty program situation, which is what everybody's making fun of Notre Dame for right now. I think that the flaw that was exposed in this one is a flaw of process, where you got to know where you stand on that buyout. You got to know if you're going to have to pay it or if you can negotiate it. You're going to need to know all that before you bring that guy to campus and parade him around. If you're comfortable with all that, then yeah, bring him to campus and get the deal done. If you're not, then don't make it public. Don't make your deliberations public. Don't make who you're talking to public. Like, it's different in college. There's a reason they keep it secret as long as they can. It's not like the NFL where it says, we're interviewing this guy for our open head coaching job today. Like, they send a tweet out. And it doesn't work that way in college because politically, in terms of perception, recruiting wise, you don't want it to get out until you've taken the job. So,
well, you got to ask yourself the question of why are you in a position where you won't spend money the way your peers will? And I think with Notre Dame specifically, there is a disconnect. And Pete Sampson's talked about this quite a bit. When you think about Notre Dame fans and the football that they expect and the plane that they expect that program to be on, it doesn't necessarily seem reasonable because there are so many things about Notre Dame, not just finances, that prevent that from happening, whether it be academic standard that they won't acquiesce to get more people into college, or
right.
Doing things that would separate Notre Dame football and elevate it past Notre Dame being a student, right? So like they want to preserve that.
Right. They've been very adamant about they want their academic standards to be higher. They want the football player and all the athletes incorporated into the campus,
into the
community.
dorms, right?
Right. They're rooming with non-athletes. And if you talk to some ex-Notre Dame players, they'll tell you they think that's one of the coolest things about playing at Notre Dame.
Yeah.
But it's a choice on Notre Dame's part that Ohio State doesn't make, that Alabama doesn't make, that LSU doesn't make.
But it's an interesting situation because the fans expect something, but I'm not sure the administrators or the people who are writing checks or deciding whether checks go through or not view it the same way. So it's kind of a hard. We always talk about fan alignment between fan expectation and realistic ceilings for programs, and getting those aligned, and how it would be a tough situation as a coach or any other way, or any other person dealing with a program when you don't have that alignment. That's why I used to think that Tennessee was an impossible job, because Tennessee fans and what they expect didn't, in my opinion, align with what the ceiling of the program was. And maybe I'm wrong about that now that Tennessee is getting better.
Well, you may have been wrong about the ceiling, but the expectations part is certainly high.
Yeah. But like, what if you're Notre Dame and you're a Notre Dame fan? You want to win playoff games. You want to win a national championship, but you're rooting for an institution that doesn't want to hold football to a higher standard because they don't want to be viewed or deemed as a football factory.
Right.
But you want to beat football factory. So what do you do?
Yeah. And this is where I had this, I say this a lot, and I said it with Michigan, although I think Michigan is starting to turn on this. I think Michigan is starting to act more like Ohio State is, and some of the other ones. You can have
their players will still get a good education.
Right. You can have a kick-ass football team and a kick-ass children's hospital. What's interesting to me about Notre Dame in this aspect is, though, Notre Dame actually became an elite academic institution directly because of football. Like, Fielding Yost blackballs Notre Dame from playing the members of the Proto Big Ten. So they have to go east to play Army. They have to go west to play USA. They wind up playing all over the country. They become the most famous Catholic school in America. That increases their number of applications. That allows them to be more selective. That allows them to take a better version of student. Those people go off, become successful. They give money back to the school. Like, there's a direct line. It's part of the reason why Notre Dame cherishes its football independence so much.
So basically what you're saying is Alabama is going to be Harvard in a few years.
Other schools, you can't say that, but well, I've written this. I wrote this when Nick Saban got his last contract extension. Alabama, if you look at the number of applications they've received, and
they're not paying them enough.
And a coordinated effort to take more out-of-state students, because those people are paying the full boat rather than the in-state students who get are subsidized by the state legislature. Yeah. There's a lot of money involved in that. So, but for Notre Dame, you can actually directly trace it to football, which, like Harvard, you can't say that. University of Chicago, you obviously can't say that because they de-emphasized athletics. But Notre Dame, there's a reason for that. And so I don't know that anybody would in the general fan base would feel lesser or feel like Notre Dame was a lesser school if it said, "Hey, we'll take all the same players that Alabama and LSU can take. We'll admit them all." But that's Notre Dame's choice. My feeling on that is the choice of the Notre Dame community if that's what they want to do. This all the stakeholders, the donors, the faculty, the leadership, the coaching staff.
But even if you don't want to acquiesce to that, and you still want to maintain the level of academic prowess when it comes to the resumes of the students that go there, you still have a very large endowment. You still have a lot of money.
Right.
Do it in situations like this where you can actually make a difference.
Right. And let's talk about the money part of it, because I understand where somebody's coming from when they say, I don't want to pay this buyout for a coordinator. So this buyout would have been 3 times the amount any buyout's ever been paid for a coordinator, is what an agent told me. And I was going back through all the different scenarios, and I believe that. And do you remember when Texas hired Joe Wickline as the O-line coach?
Yeah.
But they had to call him the offensive coordinator so they could avoid paying a buyout to Oklahoma State. Yeah. And then it ended up going to court. I think that Texas ended up having to pay Ohio State something anyway. I never understood why Texas, with more money than God, was fighting this. Just pay the money. Who cares? But I guess if you're the person who's going to set the precedent in your industry, you don't want to set that precedent. But here's the difference for me as just a dumb reptilian brain person watching the sport. I don't differentiate between the buyout money you paid Charlie Weiss and the buyout money you would have paid Utah to hire Andy.
I don't either. I don't either. It's all dead money. Yeah. I agree. No, I agree.
So it's like you would have, if you hadn't promoted Marcus Freeman, had you decided to hire, let's say you decided to hire Luke Fickell from Cincinnati at the time, you would have paid Cincinnati a buyout to hire Luke Fickell.
And it all comes from the same pot.
Right. It's you're paying a buyout to hire a coach. And also, now Notre Dame hasn't done this yet. We've seen it happen quite a bit in the SEC and other places in the Big Ten. There's been a lot of buyout money paid to fire coordinators. Tons. So who cares? What's the difference?
Yeah, I mean, I hear this all the time, Andy, and I'm sure you do too, but whenever a coach is considering taking a job, and they say, what's the most important thing to their success or that they care about during the interview process? It is administrative buy-in.
It's alignment, yes.
An alignment of what they're doing. And I understand the idea that you want to admit only a certain caliber of student to maintain the integrity and the bar that university has set from, like I said, an academic standard. But if you're Notre Dame and you have more money than 99% of other programs, why, when you have a chance to differentiate yourself by getting a better coordinator or by getting another coach or adding to facilities or doing anything in your power that doesn't impede on academic discussions, why you wouldn't try to make up for the fact that you're unwilling to relent those academic standards,
right? It doesn't
overcompensating in other areas.
It doesn't make you a worse person to spend the money you have for a thing you want.
And also, too, is there like this thought process that if you spend too much money on football, then that money could have been better spent somewhere else in the university? It's all coming from an academic fund, right? So, or an athletic fund.
At a private school, you can split it up however you want it. It's
so. Is that the problem? Is it just is that the issue? Like, what is it? Because I don't know what the problem is, and it's like almost feels like the Notre Dame administration, at least from the outside, is like the biggest current that's getting in the way of their rise.
And what's interesting about this now, here's where I will give them credit. They do not have outsized expectations. The fan base might. Some of the fan base might. The administration doesn't. The administration, since Jack Swarbrick's been there, at least to me, has seemed to have very inline expectations with what they are giving the coaches. Like, they're not expecting.
And then that's the alignment problem between the administration and the fan
base. Yes. So really, I think what you would want is more of a fact find. And I would be curious because obviously the rank and file fans' opinion does not count as much as the giant donors' opinion. How do the giant donors feel about this? if they want to win national championships, it's their money. Go get them some national championships. Like, stop trying to pretend that you don't care about football when we know you do. Like,
Yeah.
that's the now, if they don't, if all that other stuff's more important to them and not overspending on football or acting a little more prudent when it comes to spending on football matters to them, then by all means just keep doing what you're doing. But if they want national championships and they're willing to pay for it, what are you trying to prove by not doing it?
So I'm assuming there's a group of people that have to make a decision as it pertains to buyouts and all the things that we're talking about here financially, right?
Yeah.
It's not just one person. Do the people that have their fingers on the PIN number pad, are they 100% bought in on football?
That's a good question. And yeah, again, I would need to be absolutely 100% sure of where the discretion is coming from. Like, where is it? Where's the hesitancy?
And who's saying no?
Right. Because if it's the big donors and they don't want that, okay, it's their money. Give them what they want. Right. But if they're cool with it and they're willing to pay for it, then there's no reason to stand in the way of it. Again, you can be a great university and have a national championship football. Like, did you think Stanford was any less of an academic institution when they were good at football earlier in the last decade?
No, and Notre Dame's always good at it.
Yeah, exactly.
But it almost feels like they would be embarrassed to be great at it.
And that's the issue. That's the issue right there. Be great at it. It's fine. We're still going to think you're a great university.
Yeah. And that, like, to me, that, like, as a fan would be the biggest hardship as a fan. Because, like, as we sit here and we break down, and I do a lot of the recruiting breakdowns of, like, how did Marcus Freeman do? He lost both 5-star prospects last year that they had committed. It was a much better class than it was before in the average player ranking, but there is another gear to hit. Like, can they hit that gear?
Yeah, and the NIL stuff, it's funny because that depends on who you talk to. Notre Dame fans like, we're not down with NIL at all, and then you talk to somebody from another school is like, yeah, they're doing some NIL stuff, like they're into it. And as you've heard me say a bunch of times on this show, all you got to do is be a star at Notre Dame, and you're gonna do gangbusters NIL business.
Yeah,
because you will be legit famous nationwide.
They're just not going to participate in the inducement space.
Right. Or not in the same way as some of the other places. But it's all they need really is somebody to really hit it big as a current player. You don't have to induce anything. You just be like, see what happened with that guy? That could happen to you.
Yep.
And trust me, that'll be pretty easy once that takes off. So I am fascinated by this whole discussion because I guess because of where I grew up, because of where I went to school, I've never thought about it being embarrassing to want to be great at football. Like, why would you be embarrassed by that?
No, I also have never understood the idea that you can't be academically superior and also great at football.
Yeah.
Like, why you can't have both. And, like, that's the thing that we've gotten to the discussions over and over again. It's like, why can't Stanford sign top 20 classes every year? Like, why isn't Northwestern signing better classes? Like, to me, like Duke, you should be using that as a benefit. There's a lot of really good students that are football players.
Well, I don't think the Ivy League is going to do this, but I keep saying, that because that antitrust exemption expired, if they actually wanted to give athletic scholarships, you could, if they really wanted to, they could build a powerhouse football conference.
Yeah,
because I think there's a whole lot of really good football players who, if they're offered a full ride to an Ivy League school, are going to take it. Like,
I also think too that, like, because some of the brainy institutions don't tend to recruit very well, it perpetuates the bullshit notion that football players are stupid.
It is bothersome, and I that's why I really liked Stanford's rise, because it became pretty clear that they were going after. Obviously, they were going after the really good football players that they thought could be admitted to Stanford. But when Stanford went in on a lot of those guys, they immediately shot to the top of those guys' lists. Like, because football, like as you put it, most football players are not dumb. And they're looking at oh, if I go to Stanford, they could prepare me for the NFL because they're putting guys in the NFL. And this degree could be amazing for me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I would do it. Like, I like to think if I were a 5-star prospect that I would have gone to Stanford, you know, if I could have gotten in.
I joke about it with my kids. Like, I was covering something a few years ago. I was at Rice and I was on the phone with my family at home, and my wife said, "Where are you today?" And I said, I'm doing something at Rice University. And she's like, and my wife's like, "Oh, what's that?" And my son's like, what is that? I said, "It's a school that if they offer you a football scholarship, you're taking it." Like, because it's a great school.
I just looked up out-of-state tuition for Stanford University for undergrad. Taking a stab at it.
Is this with room and board and all in?
It says undergraduate tuition and fees.
Okay, that's just the tuition. So would that be 50 right now?
$56,169.
Wow, and then you're tacking on another 30 for.
So, like, honestly speaking, if you think about NIL, it's like going to Stanford alone is a $250,000 or $350,000 investment, or depending on where you're coming from and where you live, because living in Palo Alto is not a cheap proposition.
Exactly.
And then flights back and forth and food and meal plans and all this stuff. Like, it is. I mean, if you go to play football at Stanford, you're almost getting $500,000 of value in that education, and something that will set you up to make more money. That's something
all the Scully commies used to say too, when you argued that the schools should be able to pay some people. And like, well, but they're getting this. And yes, at Stanford, you actually are getting that. At some of these state schools, it's not the same thing.
But also too, it's like you also have to, whenever people used to say that to me, Andy, I'll be like, okay, next time you get your paycheck, they're going to pay you in Bed Bath & Beyond gift cards. It's worth that, but not everybody prioritizes that, right? So
yeah, I mean, it is beyond. It's not just Bed Bath.
It's like you could make $100,000 a year in Bed Bath & Beyond gift cards, and I'll tell you one thing. You'd have every cool bathroom gadget that's ever existed.
No doubt. Those really nice trash cans that
your scale in your bathroom will be able to tell you how much of that is water weight. But if you prioritize it, and that's something that matters to you, like, I feel like Stanford should have the best sales pitch in college football, and there are certainly at least 40 elite level players that could qualify academically there that would care about those things. So why do they have bad recruiting classes?
Well, there's still a balance to be struck by who makes more NFL players. Like Alabama and Ohio State and Georgia right now have a prohibitive advantage in recruiting because they can tell you, look how many NFL draft picks we made and look how high they got drafted.
If you were a 5-star tight end and you like Deuce Robinson, who hasn't announced yet, Stanford isn't even a finalist. Why?
Well, is he for sure a take at Stanford?
I don't know.
I mean, that is a question. Yeah. That's the thing at Stanford. And again, that's Stanford's choice, how they want to handle that. But I mean, it'd be hard if I was Deuce Robinson not to go to Georgia or Ohio State, or who else is he looking at?
Well, I will say this about Stanford, because somebody told me a recruiting story off the record a few months ago about a prospect that they were recruiting very heavily in the top 100 at a certain position, and then that player went somewhere else or committed somewhere else, and then Stanford took another player that was rated much lower, and then that player that was the high-rated player came back, and they're like, no thanks.
The spots were gone. Yeah.
They actually purport to do things the right way.
Yeah. The other problem for Stanford is the admissions process takes a lot longer for them to say, yes, we can definitely take you. And a lot of other programs want answers before that process ends. And you got to be like top of the top of the top to be able to push that decision back. So there are other, and that's the thing. These aren't one size fits all situations. So it's why Notre Dame's different. And again, it's the Notre Dame community's decision how they want to handle this. But you can have better alignment. Like you can let Marcus Freeman know, hey, I don't think we're going to be able to do this buyout. Don't bring him here. You guys keep talking. We'll deal with the buyout stuff and give you a yes or no firm answer. But let's not let this get public yet.
Andy, in my mid-20s, when I was working for Cleveland.com and the Plane Dealer, a unnamed company approached me to work for them.
Tesla.
No, it was a journalism company.
Okay.
I think. And they flew me down to their city, and I can't tell you the city because it'd probably give it away. And they had a recruiter take me out to dinner, and they took me to Capitol Grill and spent $250 on like drinks, promising, hey, we're going to do this the right way. We want you to cover it this way, this beautiful sales pitch. And they put me up in a hotel. Oh, and the flight they booked was for the next day.
So there's a hotel. Yep.
So it was the hotel, the flight, everything. They must have been $2,500 at the very least into this deal of getting me down there to interview. And then when we were done with dinner at the end of the night, and I was feeling good, I was like, okay, let's, because like this is sending a message that you're going to be getting.
Yeah.
Like if this is how you're treating me on this interview, then this is going to be a great salary. And the guy offered me 20 grand less than I was making currently.
Alignment.
And I got back on the airplane and I said, one, it's unbelievable how much corporate money is wasted any year if this is the way that we're running things.
Right.
But in two, my time, and the steak was great, so maybe it was worth it.
Yeah.
And your time was wasted by a question you could have just asked over the phone.
Yes.
Alignment.
It all matters. When we come back, Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark was on one of my favorite podcasts and said something that I found very interesting. Something's apparently our fault, Ari. We'll be right back. Today, I woke up stiff and tired and feeling very, very old. What did I need to do? I needed to stretch. So what did I do? I opened up my Peloton app. I found a 10-minute Callie Gullickson stretching workout. 10 minutes later, I felt fantastic. I felt 10 years younger. That's what Peloton can do for you. It's not just the bike. It's not just the treadmill. It's not always a workout that leaves you breathless and panting, but sometimes it is, and sometimes you need that. But sometimes it's just stretching, or it's yoga, or it's exactly what you need when you need it. That's the best thing about Peloton. One day, I'm running hard with Marcel Dinkins. There's trap music playing. The next day, Matt Wilper's country, just an easy jog. It's what you need when you need it. And you can mix it up, and nothing gets you moving like Peloton. You do not have to be a superior athlete to enjoy Peloton because there are classes for every level. Whether you exercise daily or you're new to working out, Peloton can help you achieve your fitness goals. So try Peloton risk-free with a 30-day home trial. New members only, not available in remote locations. See additional terms at onepeloton.com/home-trial. That's onepeloton.com/home-trial. Whatever you need, when you need it, they got it. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. Take me. I was like the 7th choice for my first job. If they'd had LinkedIn Jobs back then, they'd have found somebody more qualified than me. Here's how you do it. You add your job and the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to and faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/Andy. That's linkedin.com/Andy to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn.com/Andy. Welcome back. So Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark went on the podcast done by John Canzano and John Wilner, who are incredible reporters, very well sourced. If you're not listening to that show and you're a Pac-12 fan, you're crazy. You need to get on that and just subscribe to it now. But they had Yormark on. They've had George Kliavkoff on, the Pac-12 commissioner, before. Yormark was very interesting, though, because he was talking about this perceived, push-pull between the Pac-12 and the Big 12 and a perceived competition between the two. Ari, apparently it's all our fault.
No one's fighting. I mean, I have a great relationship with George. We have a collegial relationship. I've known George for years. I believe in this industry that you can partner with all of your colleagues and for all the right reasons. But at the same time, know that from time to time, you're going to compete. And that's the world we live in. That's the world I came from. When I was the CEO of the Brooklyn Nets, you'd be at board meetings with your contemporaries from around the league, and everyone is thinking about what's in the best interest of the sport and the NBA. And then you leave that room and you also know that as much as you've spent 3 or 4 days thinking about what's in everyone's best interest, you are all going to compete for players. You're going to compete in a particular market. And I use that mindset here too. I mean, I look to partner with all of my colleagues in the Power Five as often as I can and when the opportunity exists. But there is going to be those moments when we compete, and that's just life. So we're not going after the Pac-12. The Pac-12 is not going after us. George and I have a nice relationship. The media has turned it into something different. But from my standpoint, I have a good relationship with all of my colleagues. It's important to me on a personal and professional level to grow those relationships. But there will be those moments where we compete, and that's okay.
Ari, this is all our fault.
Wouldn't be the first time I heard that, Andy.
Oh, man, we shouldn't have done this. I mean, we shouldn't have gotten up and said that the conference was open for business. We shouldn't have said on the same podcast as this one, by the way, that we'd like a team in the Pacific time zone or a school in the Pacific time zone.
I don't know where you came up with those crazy ideas. I think you should say sorry.
I'm sorry. My bad. My bad. No, really, but do listen to that. And it's a good interview.
Yeah.
And you learn a lot more about Brett Yormark and how he came to do what he's doing and working at Rock Nation. But he's the one in this same podcast with Canzano and Wilner saying the Big 12 would like to have a school in the Pacific time zone, which would give them all 4 time zones. Ari, do you think they would rather have Oregon or San Diego State? Which do you think they'd rather have?
I don't know. I mean, I think I'd rather live in San Diego than Eugene. They're coming for me now. No, yeah. And it's like, if they wanted to come tomorrow, do you like carry them on your own back, like a 5-year-old back to Big 12 country? Like, if you're him, like, how do you transport him? Like, if Oregon said, we'll come to the Big 12, but you have to carry us on your back, do you think he would do it?
Absolutely. I will tell you in Vegas when they had all the meetings and stuff there, me and Brett Yormark were opening the gym every morning, and that dude gets after it.
Oh yeah,
he's not playing around. Yeah, he's not playing around. So he could do it. But
was that Vegas? You said
that was in Vegas. Yes.
Psychopathic behavior.
The only place in Vegas with a clock is the hotel gym, by the way. So
I want you to leave.
The Solid Verbal College Football. I don't know if this is the actual Solid Verbal account sending it to us in the chat. The Solid Verbal is rumored to be looking to add hosts from the Piggly Wiggly. Is this a job offer? Ari,
I'm in the Piggly Wiggly footprint, aren't
I? No, you're not. I am.
There's a Piggly Wiggly in Athens, Texas.
Okay. Well, there's actually Piggly Wigglies in Wisconsin. Like, it's a big footprint. It's a bigger footprint than people realize. So
fly me out to Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
Make me one of your pizzas. Wine and dine me. Talk all the big talk, and then offer me $20,000 that I'm less than I'm making.
What makes you think we're going to Chicago to see Dan? We could be going to Allentown to see Ty.
I would rather go to Allentown. They've got casinos there.
There you go. So, well, Ari, the Brett Yormark thing's interesting to me because, again, we've said this all along. I don't get the feeling that anybody in the Pac-12 wants to go anywhere. But you had that weird statement. We should have gotten into this on the show on Monday when the Pac-12 put out that statement. You had that weird statement from them, like, we're doing it, we're making a TV deal, we think, and we're very confident, we're putting out a statement for reasons. Like, just tell us you've made your deal. Yes. And then nobody will have any questions anymore.
Right. Yeah. It also, too, it's just like seems to be common sense to infer that the two previously known as Power 5 conferences that have both lost major properties to or tent poles to those conferences would be at odds with one another in the sake of survival, right? Like, I don't know if it's simple business or simple common sense, but I don't know that
either they would merge or one would raid the other.
Yeah. I mean, it's human nature, right? So, and I think that one Power 5 conference could emerge from both of them and have a very good conference if they were to join their best properties together. But without Texas, without Oklahoma, and without USC, UCLA too, like you're talking about two conferences that need to make a spark somehow. And they're in similar positions.
And they both want similar things because the Pac-12 is now, they've got Pacific and Mountain time zone teams. We just saw George Kliavkoff sitting at a basketball game of a Central time zone team, SMU.
Yeah, so, and you're the one who made up they're open for business, but it did seem like they were open for business.
Sure looks like the Big 12 is open for business, but yeah, it's our fault. Totally our fault. But I do recommend everybody go listen to that interview. Canzano and Wilner do a great job. And I was very enlightened, I thought, at the end of that.
Well, the truth is, Andy, that expansion is technically happening because of media deals.
Correct. It's not. This is true. If we're talking the media, well, that includes reporters and people, idiots who talk into microphones like us. But it also includes
the television stations,
executives, streamers. With real money.
He's right. It is. I agree with him that the media is the problem.
I like our guy Josh Pate over at 24/7. His theory that somebody's just waiting the Pac-12 out to just buy them lock, stock, and barrel. Like buy the whole thing.
Yeah, just buy the whole thing.
Which maybe we should do that. Should we divert funds from our Myrtle Beach Bowl project to buy a conference?
It would be cool if we had an ass conference. I'll tell you one thing.
What's better, a conference or a bowl game?
We should do a podcast where we just break down if we ran the ass conference, what it would look like. And like what the first thing that you would do would be. Mine would be to remove unsportsmanlike conduct penalties from the game.
Oh, you're just talking trash the whole time.
I don't think there's anything that you can do that would stop me from, or that would make me penalize you. I'm talking props. I'm talking dancing. I'm talking Sharpies in the sock, cell phones in the goalpost stanchion.
Yep.
Everything.
It's supposed to be fun. So I'm probably on board with you there.
Cap guns.
Not cap guns.
Like cowboys, I don't know.
Nope.
I don't know. I do think that the celebratory part of the game is lacking and that it should be like everybody was so offended when Tom Herman did the, I was like, I thought that was cool. Yeah.
Listen, I don't mind. Like,
we were talking about it. We were watching it. We were laughing.
I don't trust a cornerback or a receiver who doesn't talk trash. So I'm fine with that. Again, it's supposed to be fun.
Yeah.
So that's what a lot of these people forget. They're in the entertainment business. I do think more and more of them are realizing it. I think Brett Yormark, especially, probably because of his background with the Nets and with NASCAR and with Rock Nation, understands that this is the entertainment business. You're putting out an entertainment product. Stop acting like it's something different.
Did you see how much attention Juju Smith-Schuster's tweet with the Valentine card got?
Yes.
Like, think about that. Like, it was
I wouldn't have done that. Athletic. I wouldn't have done that, but yeah, it worked.
I'm not saying that I would have done it if I were him, but I'm happy he did. Like, it was a fun thing to follow.
Poor Brad. Bradbury's a stand-up guy for admitting that he held him, but I don't think I'd admit that.
Either. Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing about it is that we are inherently interested in the shit talking.
Yes.
We are inherently interested in free agency and roster building and the things that happen behind the scenes.
We're interested in gossip, period. I found
Yeah.
myself like today going down the rabbit hole of who allegedly broke up Megan Fox and Machine Gun Kelly. So
You did?
like, yeah.
Who was it? Do we know?
It's,
Or
his guitar player is the rumor. And she is like, she's got an Instagram feed that
is
like
she cheating or is he cheating?
They're claiming he is. I don't
Okay,
want to
so
get in
then
trouble.
oh, and
Allegedly.
And then the guitar player is the one who blew the whistle. Is that what the?
No. Allegedly, something happened between the guitar player and Machine Gun Kelly. Allegedly.
Okay.
Yeah. So I realize the 75% of our listeners are like, who are these people? So,
Well, my favorite thing is that like I have zero interest in any of this, but like I also like if you talk about it, like what happened?
Well, like it's one of those things that it came up on my Twitter feed, and I'm like, why is this lady?
Well, because
guitar
they were
player
so in love, right?
spitting fire at a concert, because that's what got my attention. Like, there's an Instagram post of her, she's playing the guitar, and then she literally spits fire on stage, and you're like, wow, that's impressive. Who is this person? And then you read why this person is now in the news, and it's like, okay,
her name is Sophie Lloyd. Okay, I'm gonna read about her when we're done.
Yes.
But you know what my fantasy would be?
What's that?
My sexual fantasy? No,
boy. Oh God.
No, my actual fantasy of being a consumer of the sport would be is if they had a pay-per-view channel where they mic'd up everybody, there was no commentators, and you could hear what they were saying.
Oh my God, I would love it. I would love it.
You know how well that would perform?
NASCAR, if you go to a race, you can listen in on the radios, and people love that. It's fantastic.
It's like if you're watching on TV and a cornerback swats a ball down and he gets up and he flails his arms out with the incomplete notion. Don't you want to hear when he turns his back and looks at the receiver shaking his head what he's saying?
Oh, absolutely. I definitely, because I'm sure it's funny as hell too. So I'm with you. Ari, we got to do a random ranking though. It is time. It's that time of the week. So this one came to us from a listener / reader. His name is Justin Patton. He wants us to rank discontinued items at fast food restaurants. And I thought
you were excited about this.
I thought this was going to be harder because I was like, I don't know if they've discontinued that many things I like, and I don't eat a lot of fast food anymore. So I've missed out on 10 to 15 years of this stuff. But no. The 80s and 90s were chock full of incredible fast food creations that is just no. My number one might be gone because it's not actually fast food, but it's at a place that we consider kind of a fast food chain. So, but it was amazing going down memory lane, and I found a couple commercials for some of these products.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
Well, let me start off by telling you, one, I never go to Taco Bell, as you know.
Right.
And half the people, like, there seem to be like a bunch of Taco Bell ones that aren't going to be on my list because I just don't go there.
Yeah, I made a rule that it had to be something I had eaten.
Okay.
And so like the Bell, I didn't have the Bell Beefer, which was Taco Bell's version of a hamburger where they put the taco meat on the bottom. And like the picture of that thing looked amazing.
It's called a
Bell Beefer.
So everything on my list I've eaten before and I actually miss.
Yes. Me too.
And if it is like something like the McRib that is seasonal, it's not on my list.
They come back. Yeah. They've brought it back. Like I think Taco Bell briefly eliminated the double-decker taco, but it's I checked today and made sure it is on the menu, so it wasn't eligible for this.
Okay, so do you want to go first? I feel like I always go first. You go first.
Yeah, I'll go first. My number 5, the Wendy's Frescata sandwiches. This was a brief period in the early 2000s where Wendy's was trying to take on Subway. And so they had turkey and ham sandwiches on ciabatta, and they were delightful.
Really? I never ate them. I saw those on the lists. I was like perusing through. And it's so funny how there was this era of time in fast food restaurants where one type of particular fast food was doing well, and then Wendy's and McDonald's tried to steal it. McDonald's tried to do pizza because pizza chains were doing so well. Yes. And then, of course, they realized that you can't be everything to everyone all at once. And
the other one, I didn't include this one, but that same MO, when Hardee's did fried chicken, Hardee's fried chicken was awesome.
Yeah. I don't remember having any of that, but okay. I think that's a good place to start. And if the McDonald's salad shakers appear on your list, I will if they are
They
on
do
there,
not. I
I will
assure you
say
they
I
do
will
not.
leave. I
Yeah.
will shut the recording
I
off and
never
walk away.
once considered ordering a salad shaker. I
Okay.
was well aware of them, but I did not ever order one.
I honestly was thinking to myself, if he says salad shaker, I'm going to just leave the Zoom. You finish this off. Okay. Mine is kind of peculiar, number 5,
Mm-hmm.
but is legit. McDonald's Szechuan sauce.
Oh yeah, that was good. That was maybe the best nugget dipping sauce ever.
And it's discontinued for some reason. And if you
There's probably
really
some
want to
chemical in it that will kill you.
I think they brought it back like for a little bit, like a few years ago. But if you want, you can buy McDonald's Szechuan sauce on eBay. And there are they are $15 per little dipper, or you can buy a lot. You can buy a lot of them for $300.
How many is in a lot? What is
I think
44 or something?
like 25 of them. Yes.
Oh,
And like, you know how McDonald's is, that's like you could drop a hamburger on your desk and leave it there for 20 years and it would look like a hamburger.
I
still.
guarantee you it
I
tastes
think
exactly the same as you
The
remember.
expirations on these, there's like a McDonald's Szechuan sauce in the original packaging on eBay right now for $20,000. But I'm a big honey mustard guy myself. And that's my favorite dipping sauce, but this was delicious and it's just gone. And like, if everybody loves it so much, why would they get rid of it?
Again,
it's just a dipping sauce.
There was either some chemical in it that would kill you or some ingredient that made it prohibitively expensive because the price on the ingredient changed.
It's peculiar.
That's almost always the reason. All right, my number 4 is the McDLT, and I'll let Jason Alexander take it from here.
Hey, you say you're getting tired of lettuce and tomato hamburgers in this town that don't quite make it? Yeah! You say that just once you'd like your hamburger hot and your lettuce and tomato cool and crisp all at the same time? Yeah! Well, I say you got it. I'm talking McDonald's new lettuce and tomato hamburger, the McDLT. I'm talking quarter pound of beef on the hot side.
And the hot stays hot.
The new McDLT.
Hot, hot.
Crisp lettuce and tomato on the cool side.
And the cool stays cool.
The new McDLT.
Cool crisp.
The beef stays hot, the cool stays crisp. Put it together, you can't resist. The hottest taste, the coolest dish.
Keep it hot, hot. Keep it cool, cool. McDLT, McDLT. Hot beefy McD. Cool crisp LT. McDLT.
It's a good time
Hot beefy McD.
for the great taste
Cool crisp LT.
of McDonald's. Could be the best tasting lettuce and tomato hamburger ever.
New McD. LT.
That commercial was one of my favorites as a child, but
That was like pre-Seinfeld days.
that was pre-Seinfeld Jason Alexander, pre-Pretty Woman Jason Alexander. This burger, it's just a quarter pounder.
That's all
But
it is.
But here's how they did it. They used 1 pound of styrofoam to create a package where there's a compartment for the cooler ingredients,
Yeah.
the top bun and the lettuce and the tomato, and a compartment for the warmer ingredients. And I'm pretty sure I saw the first story about a hole in the ozone layer on ABC Nightly News like 6 months after this thing came out, and all of a sudden it disappeared.
I was like, I've seen that commercial in the last few years on YouTube because I get nostalgic for 90s advertising sometimes. In 90s,
That's 80s. That's
or 80s and
baby.
90s.
Yeah.
You know, just like we were going to talk a little bit about like the atmospheres in some of these places, like the sunroom and the old Wendy's and stuff, like when it was like that when I was a kid. But okay, so my number 4, and I'm not a sweets guy, you know that about me, but
Right.
there's a few sweets on mine. Number 4 is my Burger King funnel cake sticks.
I was wondering if you'd have the funnel cake sticks or the Cinna-Minis. I like the Cinna-Minis a lot.
I'm
don't
a
think
big
I've ever had
funnel
the
cake guy.
sticks.
I think that my favorite dessert might be a fresh funnel cake at a carnival.
A funnel cake is delicious. I did not
but
ever
it's
get
savory
funnel
and
cake
sweet.
sticks.
It's also savory too, so it
Yeah.
scratches that itch for me. And Burger King did a pretty good job of duplicating that taste.
Well, I don't know how I missed those because I do feel like that's something I would have ordered a lot of but it might have been after I stopped eating a lot of Burger King. But
Yeah.
the Cineminis were on the tail end of my Burger King eating experience, and those were pretty good too. So my next one, number 3, this is when KFC saw that everybody was going anti-carb and was like, I know, we'll eliminate bread. The double down sandwich, the patties, quote unquote, were basically 2 fried chicken fillets.
Which, by the way, have a ton of carbs in them.
Of course. But between them, cheese and bacon.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
I actually never got around to eating that, so it's not on my list, but I knew that would be on yours.
A double down, I think, would probably cost about $12 today.
Yeah.
Just because the price of meat has gone up considerably.
Yeah, you want to watch your carbs? How about you just take 2 pieces of fried chicken and put mayonnaise in between them? Really lose some weight that way. Yeah, that's
great.
There was a taco at Taco Bell that the shell was fried chicken.
I remember that.
And I've had that before. I just don't know if that's discontinued or not. But that was really good.
Yeah, I can't remember if they've gotten rid of that or not.
My number 3 is Pizza Hut triple decker pizza.
Yes.
Do you remember that?
I do remember that.
It used to be like, it was like 3 or 2 thin crust pizzas in a row or like on top of each other.
Right.
And you just like bite onto it. And it was just like a quesadilla-ish type pizza. And it was
Pizza Hut has some mad scientists working in its test kitchens.
Yeah,
that's all you need to know.
I always give Taco Bell such crap because everything on their menu is made out of the same 5 ingredients. But the same thing for Pizza Hut, where they make pizza 900 different ways and they call it something different. And they were visionaries for being the first perfecters of the stuffed crust. But it was a triple decker pizza that got the nod for me, and it almost was the Pizzone. Because those were pretty good too. They don't make those anymore, but Pizza Hut had to be represented on my list.
Pizza Hut is represented on my list, but not at number 2. Number 2, the Little Caesars bacon wrapped deep dish. This was, I know how you feel about Hot and Ready's. Mm-hmm. This was the elevated Hot and Ready because their deep dish is basically Detroit style pizza. It's a thick rectangular pizza. It's very good. But what they did is they wrapped 3.5 feet of bacon around this pizza. But it was
before Little Caesars became,
it was $8, Ari, $8.
Before Little Caesars became the $5 Hot and Ready walk in and grab your pizza for $5 place, wasn't it like a legitimate chain that actually had regular prices, or was it always legitimate?
No, it was always cheaper because remember their motto was pizza, pizza, and what they would do is you would order 1 and they'd give you 2, and they'd probably use enough cheese for 1, but they'd give you 2. Like the quality of Little Caesars has improved dramatically.
Oh, this is the improved version of it?
Yeah, oh yeah.
I cannot imagine what worse Little Caesars tastes like. But hey, I'll give that to you. Okay, so my number 2 is the McDonald's Chicken Select chicken strips.
I was wondering if these would make your list.
These should have been number 1, but the Chicken Selects were legitimately good chicken fingers. And I don't know why they were gone, to be honest.
Yeah. That's one because yes, I understand that the Raising Cane's and Zaxby's do fingers better than McDonald's because it's what they do. But if McDonald's offered just some chicken fingers, people would buy them. I mean, Wendy's does that.
Right. Yeah, and they were really good. So I just realized that 3 of the 5 are from McDonald's on my list.
That's okay. Nothing wrong with that. I was going to have a couple of Pizza Huts because like triple decker was one I considered too. But my number 1 is from Pizza Hut, probably a little before your time. These were on their way out by the time you were being born. But the Priazzo is the greatest chain pizza creation in the history of the world. Here's the commercial.
In Italy, they discovered long ago that to make the perfect Italian pie, you must start with the perfect recipe. Italian sausage, pepperoni, cheddar and mozzarella cheeses. As they bake, the meats and cheeses blend to create a taste unlike any you've experienced. At Pizza Hut, we call that recipe Priazzo Roma Italian Pie. Discover it for yourself.
So
smash that.
I've got to describe this for you. It looks a little like a Chicago deep dish, but it's not quite. So imagine the base of a Chicago deep dish, and then you sauce that, and then you dump toppings in. Like in that, the Roma was a variety. There was a Florentine. There were a couple different.
Yeah, but you wanted the one with the sausage in it.
Yeah, the sausage, bacon, all the meats. They dump all the meats in. They dump cheese into that. They then put another crust over top of that, and then another layer of cheese.
With the sauce on top of the second crust.
Yes, with the sauce on top of the second crust. So a little like a Giordano's, more like a Giordano's than like a Gino's East or a Lou Malnati's.
Smash that.
It was so freaking good, Ari. So good. And I didn't realize this. I went down a rabbit hole on the Priazzo today. Apparently, in the era it was being served at Pizza Hut buffets, they would occasionally put out Priazzos. And basically, the diners would stalk the employees like, when are you putting out a Priazzo? When are you putting out a Priazzo? So the Priazzo, here's what happened. And there's multiple theories on why it disappeared. It wasn't for lack of popularity, because people absolutely loved it. It took 40 minutes to make. So that's taking oven space away from pizzas that are higher profit margin. Certain Pizza Huts switched oven, I guess Pizza Hut might have switched oven suppliers in the middle of it.
Yeah.
And the newer ovens weren't powerful enough to cook it properly because it was such a beast of a thing. And so that it died. But I
think
remember,
you could just say it wasn't good for profits.
No, exactly. But I remember I had a manager at Champ Sports when I was in high school. And he had this like 30-minute soliloquy on the Priazzo. And he was talking about, like, he called pizza and he's like, I will pay you $40 to make me a Priazzo. They wouldn't do it. This is $1995.
Oh man, that's hilarious. I wish I could have experienced that, Andy. I like you said, it was before my time. But my number one, the deep fried McDonald's apple pie.
Oh yeah, the old one.
The old one.
Yes.
We're talking about, now it's baked.
Yeah, it's not the same thing. No,
And
that deep fried McDonald's apple pie was tremendous.
Why did they stop?
Might have been the best. That might have been the best fast food dessert ever.
They stopped because it wasn't healthy.
It's McDonald's.
Then they continued on with the rest of their business.
Right.
What happened?
It's like, y'all know you're McDonald's, right?
Yeah,
you can make it as unhealthy as you want.
That's crazy. And I think those stopped being made before I turned 10, but I remember them vividly.
Oh, they were so.
It's like,
good.
The apple pie now is still pretty good, and they do the holiday pies, and it's like, I'm not much of a sweets guy, but if you could dip one of those into the air, into the vat of grease and fry one of those things up, and it's just like, if the reason is they were too unhealthy, that's just unbelievable.
Yeah, I bring those back and not a single person complains, and they're probably cheaper than the baked version.
Yeah, just bring them back. Well, that was a nice little run down memory lane.
If we can provide a single public service for everyone, it's to bring back the original McDonald's apple pie. So get on it, McDonald's. Everybody else, have a great weekend. This is no football this weekend. Our first non-football weekend for a long, long time. Get out, smell some fresh air. We'll be back to talk football on Monday. We'll talk to you soon.